Awakening is not the completion of the journey, if we use the metaphor of a journey, because no journey, there's no distance, there's no destination, there's no traveler even. But it looks like a journey, so it is the beginning of the journey. Awakening is the starting point of spirituality. Spirituality means spirit, means consciousness. Then you move consciously in consciousness, as consciousness. That is what spirituality is. And not all what we have said about spirituality, or history of spirituality. Awakening is the starting point. Realization is the completion.
Pranam, Swamiji.
Pranam.
Just wanted to get your thoughts on the Manonasha and Vasanakshaya that you referred to. From the Vedantic perspective, it seems that they are not necessary for Jivan Mukta to reach the Jivan Mukta state. But it seems like Ramana Maharshi emphasizes that one has to come to that point of Manonasha before one abides in that knowledge.
Yes. I would say that for awakening, definitely, if Manonasha was mandatory, no one would awake. So at the time of awakening, there is a sort of breakthrough. That means there was a certain level of purification of the mind, means the main knots perhaps were cut, and so that allows you to see, to have an insight into your true nature. But that awakening is not permanent. It can only be permanent if all the vasanas of identification will be eliminated. That makes sense because you can be in that profound awakening for some time, and then your vasanas, which lie in the subconscious mind, may appear, may manifest, may become active in the forms of thoughts, desires, preferences, likes, dislikes, etc., aversion. And the moment you touch again or you associate even a little with these thoughts, actually you associate with the whole chains of thoughts and vasanas and tendencies that will again bring you back to the state of identification. And somehow you are not losing your true nature, but you lose direct insight. And that's why awakening most of time is for a limited period of time, and then the same awakening may come again and again. At some point, awakening becomes stable because you are no more distracted by the manifestation of the subconscious mind, and these tendencies will slowly, gradually subside. But this can take some time. I mean, it can take even several lifetimes. You see, it all depends. It's hard to say because it depends on the quantity of this and the intensity of these vasanas. But in one lifetime, yes, you can come to final liberation. That means realization. So that is the permanent awakened state. And that, of course, implies a complete destruction of all the vasanas of identification. You see, that's why when Jnani it's a general word. At the highest level, it is the Jivan Mukta. But you have also people who are in that awakened state for quite a long time, but are not completely realized. And so we call them also Jnanis. And sometimes their awakening is like fading, and they can withdraw from society and they go into a retreat. And then again the awakening reappears, you see. So this is the fluctuation of awakening due to the vasanas and sanskaras. So I think that Ramana Maharshi really truly emphasized that for some purpose. Pure mind implies a complete elimination of the vasanas, of identification, because you have the bhoga vasanas. These are the functional vasanas that are needed for the day-to-day life, you see. So a jnani doesn't have a destroyed mind. He will use his or her mind as like everyone. But he or she has something less than most of people, and that is a sense of identification. It's not enough, though, to have lost the sense of identification, because you have people who seem to have a profound awakening, and they know that they are not the body, but they still don't know what they are, you see? And so this is clearly that intermediary state. That is not an awakening that has come to completion. That is a temporary awakening. It is a partial view into reality. You have seen half of the truth. You have seen that you are not this one, that you are no one, yet you have not seen the truth. Because that is, I would say, the supreme vision, in which there is complete knowledge of reality, the Brahma Gyan. But when you speak with someone who has had, let us say, a profound awakening and feels that she is not for sure forever the person, there is no that supreme Gyan. They say like, I'm not a sage. I'm not a sage. This awakening has not made me a sage. It means what? That is a partial view, a partial insight. So sadhana is still needed, but not the same sadhana like in the beginning. Because now you are no one. So it is the sadhana of no one. It's a very different sadhana. But you have to wait. In the complete awakening, there is gyan. There is knowledge. It's not a philosophical knowledge, because you may not even be able to express it philosophically or conceptually. But there is knowledge of that. And it's not, here knowledge is not the object of the knowledge. It is more truly said the subject. But there is knowledge. And it's very hard to define that knowledge if you compare it to what we call knowledge. It has nothing to do with that. It's the knowledge of the truth. That is Atma Gyan, or Brahma Gyan. And that is the natural state. And all other forms of awakening are intermediary forms. They are not complete. And most of the people who have this wild, sudden awakening, they are also no guru. They are like of lost. But of course, the grace is there, because otherwise they would not have experienced that awakening. But somehow they do the wrong things. And they dilute their awakening. And after that, for 10, 20, 30 years, they are looking for a new experience of awakening, because now they want it, as if it is a higher state. It's not a higher state. A yogic state is a higher state, but awakening is not a higher state. It's a natural state. So it's not a state. It's a no-state state, a stateless state. It doesn't come in the categories of states. In contemporary teachings and traditional teachings of Advaita, it seems that the teachings of Sri Ramana have been integrated. That's my feeling, because when I go sometimes through these teachings and I see, oh, this is Ramana Maharshi, but you don't find the name Ramana. He's definitely the new Shankaracharya of our time. It is not a coincidence that he himself has translated the writings of Shankaracharya. He has taken the pain to translate them in Tamil, you know. It's a great pointing. So you don't need the complete Manonasha for awakening. That would be an impossible task. Moreover, through the first awakening, most of your vasanas will get eliminated because they cannot stand in the light of the awakening. But it's a process. For those who there is no time or gap of time between awakening and realization is because their mind was almost empty and pure, as in the case of Sri Ramana, because awakening and realization came together. And then there was integration. That's why he was in that state of samadhi for a long time. Integration. For some jnanis, there is a short gap. And for others, it takes even several lives. But once there is awakening, you don't bother so much about coming back in the samsara, because you feel that your life is completely taken care of, it is guided, protected. And again, this samsara is seen now as the very form of the beloved, you see. It's not seen as an adverse form. So in sadhana, we need to purify the mind, and so we have to start with that. Purification of mind is a must. Understanding also is a must. So when understanding and purification of the mind come together, definitely it will happen if you have that burning aspiration. That is another condition. And then, when awakening happens, the real purification of the mind is taking place. That is a purification in depth, you see. It will cleanse the mind in depth. And that implies a vigilance, because if you are not vigilant enough, then you may be taken away by the vasanas. But then knowing how it all happens, then you can recreate the same circumstances, and it's not written anywhere that if you had one awakening in this lifetime, you may not have a second one or a third one. Awakening can be very short, can be like just 1 hour or 2 hours, or it can be overnight, or a few days, or 10 days. It can also last for several months, and even sometimes for several years. But if you go beyond 2 or 3 years, then it will definitely turn into realization. So awakening is not the completion of the journey, if we use the metaphor of a journey, because no journey, there's no distance, there's no destination, there's no traveler even. But it looks like a journey, so it is the beginning of the journey. Awakening is the starting point of spirituality. Spirituality means spirit, means consciousness. Then you move consciously in consciousness, as consciousness. That is what spirituality is. And not all what we have said about spirituality, or history of spirituality. Awakening is the starting point. Realization is the completion. Awakening is a substantial experience that is actually not an experience as we understand experience with an experiencer and something that is experienced. Because it is an experience in which there is no experiencer that you can identify, and nothing that you can identify as an object of your experience. So that is the non-dual experience. That is profound insight in your true nature. Then one has to remain in that profound vision, the non-dual vision, and be attentive to the fluctuations of the mind, and see them as just fluctuations of the mind. We should not give any importance to these fluctuations. We should remain centered in this profound insight.